Ooh, did you zoom in on your face?
You look amazing.
I don't know. What did I do?
I don't know. Ben's happiness and chipper nature right now is nursing me back to health.
God damn it, I zoomed in and now I don't know how to zoom out, and it's going to be like this on my work calls.
Well, now your coworkers just get to see that lovely shining face of yours.
I guess so.
Right. Joel, JP and I were just talking before you hopped on, Benny, that it's been a little bit of a tough weekend for Oregon State related results.
Yeah.
Ones that officially went in the book. But there are a lot of good things since the first time, or since we last met in this medium. It is Sunday, October 2nd. Happy 66th episode. 6-6. Pretty spooky, and it's officially spooky season.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
That was planned.
We should have. Should we have a Belligerent Beavs Halloween party on Twitter or any other medium? I feel like we're nerds just having parties on Twitter and not in real life.
We should.
You going to a party this weekend? Yeah. Where? On the internet?
On Twitter.com. You heard of it?
You don't know my friends. They go to other schools.
They are real, Mom.
One of the happiest things that's happened since we recorded last episode, and I imagine, and particularly happy for one of us, but I imagine happy for many of our listeners, it's a new dawn in the Pacific Northwest. The Seattle Mariners playoff drought finally, mercifully, and emphatically is over. Mariners fan and passionate Babe, Benjamin Lawrence, Sebastian Wehage. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You've been, I know your Mariners fandom has picked up in like the last few years, and I feel like I hear from you about the M's on opening day every year, and I kind of just scoff like, why does Benny do this to himself? I'm not trying to shun the Mariners. I have no room to throw shade, but I'm just like, yeah, it's. They'll be fun and then fizzle out, but they are awesome. They're in the playoffs, and shout out to our friend of the pod and listener Claire Eagle, in Seattle native in the Seattle area. I think I pledged my postseason loyalty to the Mariners, and I'm excited about them.
I bought a hat, so I'm already bought
That's
it.
right. I was there when he bought it.
Whoa,
Yeah.
That's commitment from JP.
Yeah.
He went to a game. He came up on the train for a game.
Yeah.
The Seattle Mariner game.
I know that was one of those days where you guys hang out in person and you use the Bebe's thread to like coordinate everything.
I will say I do feel like, I'll put it this way. So you guys have been fans of the Giants and the Twins respectively since you guys were born. And I was sort of late into the game with the Mariners, so fully admit that I was not there for the full 21 years that they had a playoff drought. But I was there for some of them, and it is nice to be in the playoffs. It's a fun team to watch for sure, and I know we have several listeners that are big Mariners fans. So I will say, like, what a way for them to get into the postseason too. The walk-off home run was pretty special. It was one of those moments where I feel like, I don't know if I'll remember it forever, but I'll remember it for a couple years for sure.
just a couple. and shout out Matt Boyd, Beaver alum Matt Boyd.
Oh man,
Ex-Giant.
What a cool! I don't know if you guys saw the
his interview,
or not the press conference, but the interview after the game. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Matt Boyd grew up in Seattle, and he's being interviewed after grew up in Seattle and was a Mariners fan growing up. So he was being interviewed after the game where they clinched, and he broke down into tears, and it was the most like just quality heart tugging thing I've seen in so long. Where he was living the life that I think all of us as kids wanted to live, is like having a big moment for the team that you grew up cheering for, and him being a part of it. So
right.
Shout out to Matt Boyd. That had to have felt absolutely incredible.
Matt Boyd's 31, so like he got the Griffey era, but like probably as a little too young to remember. Here Comes Griffey.
Yeah.
JP, please play 5 seconds of My Oh My by Macklemore / Ben Weehage.
Here comes Griffey, the throw to the plate, not in time. My oh my, the Mariners win it. Yes.
If you haven't noticed yet, listener, Benjamin Lawrence Sebastian Weehage looks quite a bit like the rapper Macklemore, who is a fellow Ben Haggerty, I believe his name is.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, shout out Matt Boyd, Mercer
So
Island.
you guys are the same
stand
person.
up.
Yeah. You've
I've never seen
us
the two
both
of
in the
you.
same
Yeah,
place.
right.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congrats on all of the success, Mr. Haggerty. You robbed Kendrick
Thanks.
in those Grammys, so fuck you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And also, not quite the same as ending a 21-year playoff drought. But JP, you're alive and shining after a pretty exciting night in your life. Oregon State loses to Utah. We'll talk about it. That game's not so important though. What is important is you were at Boo Bomb last night.
Such
Yeah,
a
it
good
was.
name for a show.
Ice Cube, Yin Yang Twins, Ja Rule,
Yeah.
Corrupt, Warren G.
It was amazing. Honestly, like if part of me kind of felt bad for the performers just because I'm like, why are you still doing this? But the best part was they weren't like trying to like, pimp their new music or something. They were just like, I'm hanging my hat on what worked. I've been performing this song for 30 years. I don't care. I'm still doing it. And they were having fun. I mean, I really don't think that there is anyone who loves people more than Corrupt loves literally any person on the planet. Every single person he saw, he was like dancing with them. He was hugging them. He was out on the stage for like every single performance, and like they'd have to like stop and be like, "Hey, there's my dude Corrupt." He'd like be like leaning on the DJ set, like drinking a
That's
beer.
awesome. That's how you know he's genuinely a good dude too.
Yeah, exactly.
Love to see it.
Yeah, so I was happy to enjoy some of the dog pound yesterday as well.
For sure.
That's cool. I feel like there's two sort of ways that you can go about being like someone like Corrupt or Warren G that are going on tour 30 years after your music. Well, not so much Corrupt, but 30 years after your music was really popular. You can either view it as the money grab or have the time of your life. And that's cool to see someone having the time of their life.
Yeah.
What was
exactly.
like the average age of attendees, JP? I feel like
okay.
you probably should have been on the younger side, but I have a feeling maybe the youths came out for this.
A lot of the youths came out, but there were like 60 plus people
Hell yeah.
like sitting on the floor seats. And I was like, all right, yeah, because they were like, our age when these guys were first coming up. So they did look a little out of place, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm sure they probably felt it when people started ripping joints like literally everywhere inside of Moda, and like
the old heads get it. The old heads at Boo Bomb.
I guess yeah, maybe if they're at Boo Bomb,
You know what
they
you're
were
signing up for.
Right. They understood the assignment.
Yeah. But there was like a father-son sitting in front of us, which I thought was pretty cool, right? Like they both were videotaping different performers, filming on their phones. And just like you could tell they had like a shared bond over the music. And so there was definitely a wide range of people. But honestly, like I think because I said this to you guys last night, like I think because of how wide of a range of like the interests and the people in the backgrounds were at that kind of event, it looked like artificial intelligence created a bunch of like fake video game people just to walk around Moda Center around me, because every single person just didn't look recognizable or something. I don't really know what it was. It was kind of like, it was like, how, okay, yeah, you seem like a normal person, I guess. And you too, but why are you guys walking next to each other or walking past each other? It just all was very, very strange to me. And I couldn't really put my finger on it. And then Annie asked if I was, had gotten contact high already, but I don't think so. I think I just thought it felt like I was in a video game because everyone was so different.
You're like, no, I don't. But everyone seems like they're in a video game right now.
Right. I'm totally
You
not
definitely-
high, but what if
Yeah.
we're just this? We're just in. We are the Sims.
We are in the Matrix.
Oh, this is a simulation, and the Sims has been the real life all along.
Oh man, if that was the case, I had what was the?
But no, I'm not high. I'm not high at all.
What was the neighbor in The Sims? I think his name was like Bob or something. Bob Newbie. You guys remember Bob Newbie?
Is this The Sims 1?
Yeah, he
I
had a
don't know if I
bald
ever
head.
actually played
He
The
kind of
Sims.
looked like me. He had like a shaved head and a beard, and he was like a slob. But
Did you ask Annie if your name was Bob Newbie?
Bob Newbie.
where am I? Am I Bob
No.
Newbie?
Yeah.
No, but like,
Well, I know who you are, but just go along with this. Tell me who you are. You are my wife, right?
but you're just talking about The Sims, and it just brought me back because one time, if this was real life, I would be in a world of trouble. I somehow was able to like code in a loop of requests into The Sims, and I made Bob Newbie drink coffee for like 3 straight days, and he just kept like drinking and then like peeing himself and drinking and peeing himself, and like he just wouldn't sleep. He would just kept making coffee and drinking it. And I think I broke the game, or I definitely broke Bob Newbie, because then when I finally stopped and felt kind of bad and like left and went back
He
to
was
my
addicted
character.
to coffee, and
No, he stayed asleep for eternity. He wasn't dead. He just was asleep on the ground. There was no way to wake him up. They didn't respawn him or anything. He just slept for eternity. And I
Wow.
think I somehow destroyed Bob Newbie, and I feel really bad about that.
well, R.I.P. to Bob Newbie.
He wasn't dead though.
He
just-
had to have been at some point.
I don't know.
R.I.P. to the sentience.
Oh,
and
see, this is no,
awakeness
yeah, because
of
this is where it
Bob
gets.
Newbie.
This is where it gets weird. He was.
I
Actually,
never played The Sims. This is
What?
so bizarre to me.
He was a ghost. He was a ghost in The Sims 2.
Oh, so he was dead.
Because you
Yeah,
he
I
did
did
die.
kill him.
Oh,
I played a lot of Sim City.
me too.
Oh yeah.
Sim Golf was a fun one. There's also the Tycoon, like Dino Park Tycoon was big in the
Roller
computer lab.
coaster tycoon.
Roller
dude.
coaster Tycoon was sweet.
Yeah.
You
That
guys
was
have
great.
to look at City Skylines now. That's like the new age Sim City, and it is
Ooh.
very cool. It's
Right.
JP, you would love this game.
Is it on like a computer, or do you? I
Both.
remember Sim City like came out on like PlayStation and stuff, and it was like, you think I'm gonna be able to like
No,
place a building with a joystick like this? Like
exactly.
you
I need a
can.
mouse.
Right. Yeah. SimCity is a game between gym and Spanish class that on a computer that is not in your home. It's still fun. If you still fuck with SimCity, I'm not calling you childish or anything. I just the setting for that game for me was always a elementary school, middle school computer lab, and I just don't know that on a console on a giant screen it would hit the same for me.
I wonder if like any of our listeners have ever like. I mean, it'd be so fun to rebuild Corvallis in SimCity. I would love to do that.
Oh,
I would love to
dude,
do
you
that.
have to get City Skylines. I'm telling you.
That's how you do it.
You definitely would be able to rebuild Corvallis and City Skylines.
This is
I want to
kind-
do that.
Kind of
Yeah.
wild because it's time for a new ad read. This episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast is brought to you by City Skylines. They didn't ask us to start talking about this. They just did. Well, Bob Newbie was a ghost at some point, so he had to have died, and it was probably JP's fault. So R.I.P.
Too
Bob
much
Newbie.
coffee.
A heartbreaking death that was not JP's fault, as we have to talk about this. A few days ago, the rapper mentioned on this pod several times. 5 seconds of his biggest hit has played several times. Artist Leon Ivy Jr., also known as Coolio, passed away a few days ago, and man, this one really hurt. Obviously, Gangsta's Paradise is a big one. JP, please play 5 seconds of Gangsta's Paradise. Maybe we'll just have to play that every episode now, until we get sued by Coolio's estate. But so many bangers. A couple years ago, I remember sometime Coolio got mentioned by somebody I know as a one-hit wonder, and I legitimately lost my temper and brought up all of the other dope songs Coolio has. Rolling with the Homies. Shout out Clueless. Great soundtrack. So many more. Fantastic Voyage. Something new. But yeah, this one hit me in the feels, gentlemen. It really did.
Yeah, I remember because Gangsta's Paradise came out in '93, if I remember right. And
Something
my
like
parents were definitely not letting me buy a Coolio album when I was, 7? But I remember shortly thereafter renting the movie Dangerous Minds just so I could listen to the song.
Yeah, that's how you know it's a good song when you're watching like a 2-hour movie.
Just to find the one part where it does 36 seconds of the song.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
He's a legend.
Lost a legend, and also he was one of several rappers on "Hit 'Em High" from the Space Jam soundtrack, which I tweeted about because that song is such a fucking banger.
Yep.
For some reason, you can go to the Space Jam soundtrack on Spotify, and that song is listed, but Spotify like doesn't have the license for the song or whatever because you can't listen to it on Spotify.
Half of it you can't like on any streaming service. Yeah, it's like somebody's clamped down on that.
Okay,
and says no streaming allowed.
Coolio has a great. I believe it's the opening verse on "Hit 'Em High," the Monstars anthem. Love villains. So R.I.P. Coolio. No matter what drinks we have here upcoming in the beer segment, we're pouring out a little bit for you. And yeah, maybe there'll be a tribute at the next Oregon State home game on October 15th because I asked Sarah Elcano to do one, and she said maybe. Yeah. So I was more kidding, Sarah. But hey, if you can work in a little Coolio tribute into the game ops for Beaver football, I think Coolio would really appreciate that.
And also the fact that it's not as timely like now because it'll be like 3 weeks after
we would have played 2 full games and 3 weeks would have passed, but still.
Yeah.
It will always be timely to honor the career of Coolio. JP.
I feel like there should be like a mandatory time of the week every week where everyone simultaneously plays Coolio songs at their homes or in their cars, and you just hear Coolio reverberating through the atmosphere.
Perhaps Gangsta's
still
Paradise
high from yesterday, I think.
Perhaps Gangsta's Paradise could be the official song of the Belligerent Hour.
Oh,
ooh,
that's a weekly time that occurs every week that everyone around the world acknowledges and celebrates and partakes in.
No one would get sick of that.
The Belligerent Hour, 4 p.m. Pacific time every Friday. You could listen to Gangsta's Paradise once a week for the rest of your life and probably not get sick of it.
Yeah, I agree.
There's only one way to find out. I will journal this experience and report back on my deathbed.
It'll be we'll chronicle it on the dive. Check out the dive.
On the dive, yeah, the dive for sure. All right. Well, we need to keep moving this episode right along, and we got a lot to unpack with Oregon State football's 42-16 defeat in Salt Lake City yesterday. But we got some beers to get through first, and I currently don't have one in front of me. So, as we were discussing a little bit before the show, I'm nursing 2 hangovers at the moment, but I think I might get up off the mat during this segment. So, JP, can I start with you tonight, or would you like to not go first again?
I'll go first. First. I am drinking let me look up a little bit more of this. This is a Southern Grist Brewing Company. Southern Grist. And they're located in Nashville. I've never had any of their beers before, so this one's my first. But I got it from Tavor. Shout out Tavor, home delivery, beer home delivery. These are the ones that you and Terry, you and Benny unpacked. So thank you for making sure that my beers were nice and chilled for me today, weeks later.
You're welcome.
But this one I had to pick today. It felt too right, and maybe we'll talk about it more during the football segment. But it's called Feasible Alternatives because I'm still waiting for one, and maybe we'll figure out what that means in a little bit. But the beer's all right. I wouldn't give it a 4, but it's a 3.9.
I think a feasible alternative to let's just pick something random. This is just totally off the top of the head, but a feasible alternative to the red zone offense. I think one feasible alternative would be to score touchdowns and not field goals. Now, yeah, I know we get a little radical on this show. I'll rein it back, but that's the first feasible alternative that pops in my head. Great to know. And shout out Nashville.
Yeah, shout out Nashville.
Yeah, I've never been. But
really
thanks for
neither.
beer.
That surprises me. It's Belligerent Beavs weekend in Nashville. We'll do. I'm sure we'd fill a live show there for sure. All right. Yeah. Go Commodores. Benny.
Yeah. So I want to stress this. I don't take edibles a whole lot anymore, but I take them for the show for the listeners that we have. So I'll be hanging out with Bob Newby here in a second. I just took
Tell him I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will. I'll let him know that he's JP's really sorry for killing you. But yeah, I just took it. So the episode's about to get real fun here in about 45 minutes or an hour or two. I don't know. We'll see.
It's already very fun.
Yeah.
Betty mentioned I should get on the edible train. And I don't know if I am. I am going to drink less though, especially after this weekend. The cool event I got to go to this weekend was I saw Tom Segura on Friday night, and he was amazing. I've never seen him live before, but one of my favorite comedians. And he's doing Sober October, and I guess does it every year. And just 1 month, I think, of total sobriety does do a lot just for the body and the mind. I'm not doing it during football season, but I might, we'll see. Maybe more Pelly and less drinky this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well,
How was the show? Tom Segura.
it was
amazing.
great. It was fun. Yeah. My friend, he and his wife were gonna go, and then last minute his wife couldn't. So he asked me if I'd like to go. So I lucked out and got the invite. But it was at Mystic Lake Casino here in Minnesota, which is it's like 45 minutes out of town. But they have there's the theater there is pretty big, and it's a pretty big casino. The only time I've ever been was a stop on a party bus, a friend's bachelor party like 6 years ago. And I kind of like drinking at casinos. I'm not a big gambler, but the people watching is fantastic. And Segura, there's a lot of material to unpack for a comedian, and I'll let you know that Segura's casino jokes do not disappoint. He was good.
Nice.
Check out Tom Segura if you haven't yet. So with that in mind, a very fun weekend has led to my beer being not much of a beer, but more of the coconut water variety from Vita Coco, whose coconuts are carefully handpicked on thousands of small farms throughout the tropics. See how we partner with our farming communities at vitacoco.com, and it is amazing. It's wonderful. It has nursed me back to the point where I now feel good enough to crack this pragmatic Pilsner from Prize Brewing Company. It's spelled different, but we've got our eyes on the prize. And I think if we can just keep going through this season pragmatically, what's gotten to us this point, Benny kind of tweeted about this after the game. We can't have anyone freak out. The way Smith has gotten us to this point of a program, so many good things are happening. So let's just keep that in perspective. This was the toughest 2 weeks in the schedule. It always was going to be. I would have loved to have picked up one of those 2 wins, but whatever. We're fucking 3-2. Let's just keep on moving, keep riding the wave. There's questions abound about what happens next, and we'll try to answer some of them. We'll actually be able to answer none of them, but we'll speculate on what those answers might be. If you come to this podcast for actual answers, then I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, we don't judge. If you want to take our answers,
we don't judge. Yeah, we're
Bible.
fairly intelligent, fairly young men. But anyway, to Coolio and to Jonathan Smith and to going 3 more wins before the bye. That's 6-2 at the bye. That's
there
what
you go.
Cheers. Well, now that Ben has gotten up and left his chair, seems like a good time to really kick this thing off. We got you back. But yeah, so Oregon State goes into Salt Lake City, playing Utah, who is ranked number 12 in the country going into it. Back-to-back games against probably the two, I'd say, most nationally recognized favorites in the conference, and just a tough day, but just sort of overall, want to get your thoughts. We've obviously talked about this a lot. Beaver Twitter kind of freaked out a bit. A lot happened in this game, and Benny's chewing on something. So, JP, I want to get your thoughts.
More edible,
first.
Benny?
Yeah, in a sandwich form.
Nice. Oh, man. It was definitely like a heartbreaking game, and I think really where it fell apart, obviously, was after half, because there was a lot of, honestly, there was a lot of optimism, not just amongst us, but other fans and the Beaver fam. You could see the players were starting to feel like, okay, we're settling down, taking a breath. It's our first big, road test. That's a conference road test of the season, and it's going to be probably the hardest one we have. So we've got some of the jitters out. Let's get after it. And it felt like they were kind of going that way. And half was like, oh, all right, like we're kind of lucky to be in this. So let's see what happens now. And the wheels just then completely fell off after that point.
Right.
Even though I felt like after every score, because of this is, I think, maybe just like the rose-colored lenses I was wearing, but it felt like after every Utah score that we still had a chance of a rebuttal. Mm-hmm. And that because we had done it, and we had done it in ways that we had talked about making us successful, running the ball, doing some misdirection, trick plays, getting your explosive players involved on offense, making it easy on your quarterbacks. Really just the main points that we had talked about. If they could just continue to do those things, we'll hopefully make it a game. And then when we did those things, we did make it a game. And so that's where I think I'm saying it was heartbreaking, is because there felt like there was a path you could chart to win that game. It felt very winnable.
Definitely.
Until it was like you look up and you're like, whoa, it's actually totally out of reach now.
Right.
So it sucked to watch, to be honest. It was maybe me personally, one of the first times I felt completely disinterested in finishing out the game.
Right.
And it has been that way. It hasn't been that way in a long time, because usually I'm like, well, we're already going to lose. So
right.
I just want to see what kind of happens, what kind of storylines develop. But this time I really was like, what am I watching?
Yeah, and that
Agreed.
was a really the Gulbranson's first interception when we were marching to respond. When it was 28-16, I think that was just sort of the moment the wheels fell off. Because you're right, we did. Yep. We had a strong answer to sort of every punch that Utah threw. They scored right away after the first interception. Then we marched right down the field with the Bolden touchdown, equalized it. 21. We're down 21-13 into half. We stop them. We march, field goal, and then they scored. I think that was really one of the. There's only two times where Rising had a great game. Don't get me wrong, and Utah's a phenomenal football team. But they really only marched down the field twice, I think. Our defense for sure kept us in that game, and I'm glad that Yogi mentioned it on the broadcast that the score of the game definitely really didn't indicate the flow of the game, or how close it really was. Doesn't really seem fair, and kind of seems like loser excuse talk. But yep. Yogi's a neutral observer, so it counts. But yeah, it was just that moment where it was just you can tread water by kicking field goals and not touchdowns for a bit. And I think deciding to kick whenever we kicked instead of going for it was always the right choice that Smith made. But yeah, it was that first touchdown in the end zone and a 70-yard return on it too.
That's a backbreaker.
Not our day. Yeah.
One stat that I want to point out, or I should say two. Oregon State had more passing yards and they had more rushing yards than Utah, right? So total yards, Oregon State had 417 and Utah had 361. Now, some of that is because we were giving Utah incredible field position and we were not getting that. But the other part of it, and I think they talked about it in the broadcast, is Oregon State's getting whatever they wanted, and we were getting whatever we wanted. I think that there were a number of components of our offense that were working, but and we saw a very similar thing against USC, where it's like everything's like a well-oiled machine, and then you throw an interception in the end zone, or you throw an interception in while we're marching down in attacking position. And those are, I think, obviously it turns the tide of the actual game, but it is such a morale killer. And I think you saw that when Gulbranson threw the pick in the end zone, they return it for 70 yards. It looked like it was going to be a 108-yard return for a touchdown for a second. But you saw the defense come out, and they just didn't have that same intensity that you saw in the first half. And I will say, like, this was the best defensive performance I've ever seen from a team that gave up 42 points. I mean, and I do think it's important to remember, like, 3 out of our last 4 games were against quarterbacks that very, very easily and probably are going to be playing on Sunday. Right. So, I mean, these were 3 huge tests for our secondary. I don't think I would say that they passed the test to a certain extent. I think they played well, but they were just put in positions that were, you just couldn't, it was tough for them.
Right. And 1 was a pick 6 that obviously the defense had nothing to do with. And then 2 of the other interceptions were returned to the 25, which led to a touchdown, and the 30, which led to a touchdown. So, obviously, I know you were giving the defense a lot of credit there, but that was just, obviously, when the AP voters, I guess they have looked at the box score and then made a decision right away. I'm sure we didn't get the amount of respect that I think this team has earned, but that's why we talk shit about the AP poll and not our defense. So yeah, just frustrating. I think on that, when a dude like Clark Phillips, who we knew was good coming into this game, picks you off twice in the first quarter, I know you just can't not throw at him entirely. Like, I know that is ridiculous sort of statement.
Kind of, but not really.
But not totally, like I know he's a dynamic defender. You can't just be like, oh, like, well, we're just going to ignore whatever part of the field or whatever player he chooses to focus on. But the next 2 interceptions were both directed at him. The first one Gulbranson threw was intercepted by KJ Hubert, but Phillips was in coverage and had perfect coverage. Like, he probably would have gotten the pick if Hubert didn't get to it first. And then the 4th and final one of the day was picked by Phillips in the end zone as well, and had great coverage. So I don't have and offensive coordinator Brian Lindgren, who we will assuredly talk about, has taken a lot of heat on Twitter, and I think he deserves it. That when you're a play caller, you open yourself up to that. That's part of the job. I'm still a fan of Lindgren. I don't think it was his best game ever, but it was this kind of like by the 4th pick, it was like it seemed like we just weren't even considering that Clark Phillips plays football and is good at it. And it's like, how many times does this dude need to pick us off before we adjust to what he's doing on the defense? It was wild to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we can get into this more so later on, but the more that I thought about the game, and I know I was joking about Lindgren to you guys earlier, but the more I think about the game, I don't know how much was his fault. Now, some of it certainly was. Right. The play calling in the red zone, questionable at best. But like, I saw people getting pissed off at Lindgren. I think it was the drive after Gulbranson threw the pick, where we ended up with the field goal, I think, but it was where I think it was Harrison had dropped a ball where if he would have caught it, it would have been to the house, right. and it was a poorly thrown ball, but one that Harrison really should have had. And it's like you can't scheme when your quarterback's not hitting your receivers, and the receivers didn't have a problem dropping that particular one. He did drop, right. But the quarterback play. I think we're all here not to dog on any of the players that are student athletes. They're 18 to 22-year-old kids, but I think we can fairly say our quarterback play has been atrocious in the last 2 games. And that's you. How are you going to come up with plays if your quarterback can't connect with your receivers?
Right. And I think this happened in the first half, but it was brought up on our halftime spaces. There was a play close to halftime where Gulbranson had Anthony Gould for a surefire touchdown.
Yep.
And just, I think he was target. He like threw it. Harrison was in double coverage, ended up throwing it out of bounds. But if he obviously didn't go through all of the progressions there, and Lindgren can't throw the ball, so the scheme there worked. And I agree. The play calling seemed to be humming for every drive. We were moving the ball between the 20s. We were great, and it was like. And then maybe that even affected the players to some extent too, because it was like, oh, we got to the 10, and then it was just like, ooh, like we couldn't figure out how to get into the end zone, and even like we didn't get much closer than the 10. It wasn't. There was a couple times where like Fenwick got 5 and like needed 7 to hit pay dirt, but most of it was incompletions or some misdirection or run that got ate up at the line of scrimmage at best. Like they knew exactly what we were going to do in the red zone.
Sometimes I feel like, though, what the problem with Lindgren that I have these last 2 games is like I feel like he's running this offense like he's playing an RPG. Like he's trying to like level up these players and put them in situations like, well,
sure,
the odds are they're not going to mess this one up again. So let's try it again, and then they'll get their confidence up, and maybe they'll like have some real game experience to lean on. So when I need them to execute this play in like meaningful minutes later, it'll work. And he just keeps kind of going that route instead of like looking at what is in front of him and saying, this stuff's not working. Like why are we throwing on first down and goal? Like it's not working, and it didn't work. We've thrown picks in the end zone, and so I don't want to pile on him because I do think he is a great offensive coordinator. But I think that these last 2 games especially have shown me as a fan, first and foremost, that he gets stuck in his way more than he likes to try to adapt to the personnel and to the situation. And I think when you have a consistent team, which is what Jonathan Smith brings to the table, he brings consistency and a calm factor that lets everyone execute their role the way they're supposed to, whether they're a player, coach, or anything involved with the program. But when things go haywire, you need to adapt. You have to adapt. And I have yet to see that from him. And now it's getting more glaring because the outcome is much more problematic. It's not just like we were going to lose this anyways. It's we could have had USC at home, or we blew it to start the game, or even start the comeback against Utah. So I need to see more from him. I need to see him put players in successful places like that's and make them successful, not make him successful, not make his play calling successful. Make the players successful, use them the right way. I mean, we've seen the players that are successful, and they weren't. We could talk about this now if you want. We could wait, but like, where's Jack Coletto?
Right.
Why are we not running the ball with him? I don't care if it's first and goal from the 8. Run it with him 3 times. Like,
well, especially when we got it was like the 4th time we were down there. It was like, all right, we've been struggling with this all game.
He had one rush.
He had one rush, yeah.
And you know what? I'll hand it to Lindgren because I did call for more creativity. And I said we have to do more than some of this boring offense. It just doesn't work right now for us, and our team seems to be too predictable. And we did run some good plays. We saw some really exciting outcomes. We also saw the players and the fans get juiced about it too. I mean, the Coletto pass, whether that was plan B or not, like on that play call, like at least he had that escape hatch and he made the throw. It worked. That was great. Right. And same with the end around from Bolden. But like that's fun to have Coletto involved in that kind of play. But when we actually know the things that he could do really well, and we needed it at that point, and we didn't use him at all, like that blows my mind. And so I brought it up again last week. I said, is something up with Jack Coletto? Is it like why is he not getting snaps on the offensive side of the ball,
Right.
especially in crucial points that he used to be lights out. And he probably would still be lights out for all I know, but maybe there's something else lingering.
It was like and this is part of the reason it was such a frustrating game because we saw a lot of that creativity. My favorite play of the day, the wide receiver reverse pass from Tyjon to Gulbranson.
Yeah.
And Gulbranson made a nifty little move too, gain of 27 to the 8 or 7 yard line, and it was that I think the next pass or the very next play was that pick, and we were down 28-16. If Gulbranson runs over the guy and is scoring on that play, you have a very different ball game. All right, we at least feel a lot better.
So real quick, you match that up with also was it Harrison that got chased down and tackled on the 5 when he so those two should have been touchdowns, really. Like the Harrison one definitely should have.
Right. But also it's just Coletto, even we've kind of been asking for this. It's like it doesn't need to be 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 to get him the ball. Like the Jack Coletto's fast recurring bit that we have. It's like it's a high percentage play. If you're 1st and goal from the 7, you know that he's going to not get thrown for a loss and not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario is 2nd down. And like
that was a best case scenario,
which would have been best case scenario in a lot of senses. Yeah, and also like I'm glad that he threw the ball. That I like just getting him that game confidence. I'm sure that he does it all the time in practice. So yeah, I think part of it was sort of the demands. Like I think you can put part of this on Lindgren, and I think a big part of it is I think Utah's just really good, and Bingham's staff they had the right game plan, and where I feel like we sort of bailed out USC. I feel like Utah really did take it to us a bit and earned this win.
Well, I think it was a combination of both, right? Like,
For sure.
I mean, I think we gifted it to them in the sense that, so like we talk about Lindgren, we talk about his lack of innovation or originality in the red zone. But I really do think that going back to the quarterbacks, when your quarterbacks have thrown 4 collective interceptions and we threw 4 interceptions last week, if I'm the defensive coordinator of Utah, I'm stacking the box. And that's exactly what he did. And that's why we saw Fenwick and Martinez and Jam getting absolutely destroyed at the line of scrimmage when we were in the red zone, is because Utah is putting 8 guys in the box, right? And you can't run against that. But what else are you going to like? So you have to pass, and you have quarterbacks that are, for whatever reason, their confidence is, at least for Nolan, his confidence is shook. And then Gulbranson, I mean, at number 12 Utah, where you're getting your first meaningful snaps in college football, that's a tough position to put somebody in.
Totally.
And so I really do think that what it all comes back to is either Gulbranson needs to be the starting quarterback or Chance needs to figure it out. And I think we've all cheered on Chance on this podcast. And I still do have confidence in Chance. We've seen what he's been able to do. I think that we can all recognize that this is really a confidence thing and not a talent thing. He showed us that he has the long ball now and he has that accuracy. So he needs to get his head in the game. And if he can get his confidence back, this offense is going to be one of the best in the Pac-12. But if he can't, we're going to settle for field goals in the red zone. Like, it's as simple as that, I think. And I think that until he can show, or Gulbranson can show, that they're a Pac-12 caliber quarterback, you're going to have teams that are just going to stack the box when we get into the red zone.
I don't think it's fair even to throw Gulbranson into this conversation, because like the guy wasn't expecting to be the number 1 guy this year. And honestly, in his mind, he probably thought I should be probably 3, right? If Jebbia was actually healthy, could play, he's a surefire 2, if not maybe even challenging the 1. So I feel like throwing him to the Wolves like they had to do doesn't really reflect on like what kind of quarterback he can be. I know people are like, "Oh, he's not going to help us. Like, move on. Who's next?" And I don't buy that at all. I saw a lot of that chatter online on both Instagram and Twitter. My fear with Chance is that there were two things that we talked about with Yogi that he thinks he improved on a lot this offseason, and it was his mechanics for the deep ball, and it was between the ears, right? And we talked about that before the season, saying the noise he's gotten used to. He's gone through it. He's experienced it. This shouldn't be anything new to him this year. So if there's expectations, if there's chatter, whatever it might be that comes his way that he hears or sees or reads, is nothing new because he already dealt with that last year, and he should have something, in his head to understand how to deal with that. And that was reinforced by Yogi saying that a lot has improved with how he is mentally. Here's where I'm most worried. I hope the injury for one is okay. I hope that his neck strain. It sounded like a cop-out substitution injury, but
then we saw the replay, and
you're like, yeah, actually, my neck would be sore for about the next 10 years of my life. So I'm not arguing at all that shouldn't have been the cause to miss a half of a game. But
Bob Newby had that same neck strain as a 67-year-old, and he died.
But let's say Chance comes back and he's cleared to play, he's healthy, and he's good to go against Stanford. And this is a big game at Stanford because like I said, Stanford, the farm is nightmare fuel for us, and we just, for whatever reason, maybe it's too quiet at Stanford Stadium. I don't know, but we just can't get a win there easily. Right. Even when we had some of our best teams, we've never been able to do it. And I know Stanford a lot has been a very quality opponent, and they're not that way now. We're 10.5-point favorites to open the week. Which is pretty much what Utah was with us to open as well. So, compare it how you'd like. But what I'm worried about with Chance is this: he comes back healthy, and it's a chicken or the egg then at this point. If it is the mental, and he just can't get over, man, I just don't want to screw up again. But also, I can't play the way I was last year because defenses have figured me out. I need that deep ball to add an element to my game to make me a more successful quarterback, to make my running backs better, to make our offense better. And if the mental side of it is because he can't execute the mechanics to get the deep ball out, that's where I'm thinking he's I just am this, I don't know, uncoordinated swan trying to throw a deep ball and forgetting how to do it. And it's just compounding on itself. So I really wanted to see two different tracks of him improve. I want to see him, don't worry about the deep ball. Don't worry about that added element to your game. Just execute the smart play and make the right read. And then let that build your confidence back. But that also, again, goes back to me with Lindgren. He needs to call those plays and not ask Chance to throw 30 yards downfield. Just let him throw some easy passes. Feel like he's got his arm motion feeling good. And let it run from there. But this week is huge.
Yep.
And if we lose at Stanford, depending on the outcome, of course, it's going to be an all-out riot by the Beaver fam, and it's not going to look pretty.
Right. No, and I completely agree with you. I think that what it comes down to, the coaches have to figure out a way to instill that confidence back into Chance. And it's not just by sitting him down and saying, hey, man, you're our guy and we trust you. With what you said is completely right. Dink and dunk it. If you being a dink and dunk quarterback and also being able to scramble fairly well, there's not, that's not the worst case scenario. That's a pretty good place to be. So the coaches have to figure out a way to instill that confidence back into Chance, because Smith already said Chance is our guy going forward. This is not a benching. He is our guy going forward. And you look at 5 out of our next 6 games, with the road game at Washington being the outlier. We are significantly better than these teams. Maybe with the exception of Wazoo, but we should win all of these games. The Wazoo game's at home. So you have to figure out a way to instill confidence in a quarterback that has lost seemingly all of it. And also not drop games. You can't, I think that's where my frustration lied in the first half. And I saw a lot with the chatter on Twitter was, we love Chance and we're all about like getting these kids, the chances that they deserve and showing trust in these kids. But Oregon State's not the Oregon State of 2018 or 2019, right? Like this is a team that should be competing for a Pac-12 championship, and you can't allow one player to cost you that when you are trying to, show some sort of life example, in terms of trust. So right. It's a tough position for Smith and Lindgren to be in, but that's why they get paid the big bucks, and they need to figure it out.
A lot of the chatter on Twitter really reminded me of 06. And one of our followers, shout out Noel Bosco on Twitter, mentioned in 06 when Matt Moore got booed at Reeser, and everyone was calling for Canfield, and everyone was booing Matt Moore. And there was that, I think that was when they had red shirt players like sitting in the student section, which never should have been okay. Let your red shirt players on the bench with the team that they're a part of. And I never booed Matt, just putting that out there. We're big fans of Matt Moore on this podcast.
Damn right.
And then I remember, I know Chance didn't get booed by the crowd, and this is a road loss that we're coming off of. But I remember after, I believe we got blown out by Cal and had a close loss to Wazoo. And then the team went on the road, had a win at Washington and a win at Arizona. And then the next home game was the upset over number 3 USC. And Matt was, of course, the quarterback the rest of the way. So I do think Stanford, for that the quietest haunted house of horrors in the world, I think it's a perfect opponent and a perfect opportunity. If Chance is healthy, he's who I'm starting next week.
Totally.
Yep.
I don't, after seeing the replay, I did not think it was a cop-out. I didn't think there was any chance that Cole Branson was going to come in, like even if Chance threw another 4 interceptions, just because it puts him in a tough situation. Opening up a quarterback controversy is difficult for your team. So I hope to see Chance out there next week, and I'm hoping for a similar narrative to Matt Moore in 06. He's a veteran, he's a leader, he's been through a lot, and I think, Benny, I love the strategy of dink and dunk, and I think dink and dunking is like kind of underselling it a little bit, because it's a really effective offense, and we have guys like Harrison, Gould, Bolden, Lindsey. Who knows if we have Luke Musgrave again, but all 4 of the guys I just mentioned are awesome with the ball in their hands.
Exactly.
Yep.
Anytime we do a wide receiver screen to Harrison, it seems like magic happens.
So why are we throwing downfield? That's what blows my
right.
mind. I know you can't just sit back and right,
and you got to keep the defense honest and things like that. But it also seems like we're not scheming for these guys, like having them do shorter routes, sort of classic West Coast offense with it, like. Joe Montana won 3 Super Bowls for the Niners off of that shit.
Hell yeah.
You have Jerry Rice, Dwight Clark, and John
Taylor.
Ball,
let him run.
Get him the ball, smart passes, move quick, keep the defense guessing, and keep them honest. So yeah, I am a big fan of that strategy. Get him in a rhythm, because once you throw a couple touchdown passes, then they get that positive momentum going. I think we'll see him start to roll again. So yeah, Chance is my starting quarterback as long as he's healthy next week. The one other thing I'll say is we really are missing the presence of Luke Musgrave. Huge completely on this team. No tight end receptions in this game. So it doesn't look like Lindgren has placed the same faith in either Overman or Velling. I'd like to see them try and get more involved, but obviously I don't know enough about how they look in practice or performances, whatever. But if Musgrave can't come back, we need to see those guys at least game plan, a bigger part of the game plan, and at least give them that opportunity to try and fill those big shoes.
Yeah, completely. It's one of those things where it feels like it's going to take one game for us to get back on track. And Terry, I think that you're right, where a road game against a team that we should beat is and a team that has had our number at home. So not only, talent wise, we should beat this team. It's on the road, so you're not going to have the added pressure. I think a home game for Chance would be really tough right now. But also you can sort of notch one on the bedpost of, hey, we struggle here, and we were able to come through and win this game where a lot of Oregon State teams from the past haven't.
Right.
So yeah, it's a good opportunity for sure.
Right. And we've talked a lot about those small firsts on this podcast, like first 3-0 start, first, several things. So winning at Stanford, just another big, notch on the post, as you mentioned, for Jonathan Smith to put to bed. So I love that we're opening up as double-digit favorites. Doesn't put me at ease. And 10 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. JP will be there.
I'll be there.
8 p.m. local time.
Yeah, so if you need to be put at ease, come just find me at the game, pre-game, whatever. I think I'm section 126, which is the visitor section at Stanford Stadium. So
can't you just sort of walk to wherever you want to watch the game from?
I mean, yeah, it's fairly open. But if you want to come hang, find me. If you're gonna be there, please come say what's up. It's fun to meet the listeners, especially on a road game. It'd be really cool.
Hey, question for you. Why do they call Stanford the farm?
I don't know, because it probably was built on a farm.
I've always wondered.
Yeah, I actually don't know that either.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not a Stanford fan just because I live near it.
Yeah, but yeah, you grew up near it.
Yeah. I don't know. Should we look at?
You're a UCLA fan growing up. And
yeah.
Jimbo's Bruins are 5-0. They're humming.
Yeah. So supposedly, so why isn't it in the farm? So yeah, Mr. Stanford was fond of horses and as such owned a vast amount of land. So the whole area is all really well developed and the fact that you're in Palo Alto, you wouldn't even realize it when you're on Stanford's campus if you haven't been there. Like it's almost like a mirage. It's the inverse of what Corvallis is in the surrounding area, because all of a sudden you're like, why are there like eucalyptus groves and like open fields in the middle of Palo Alto?
Because Mr. Stanford was fond of horses. I knew it was gonna be something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Like
so
nothing.
it was essentially a farm
that
he also put a university on.
Yeah, and then they probably beat Yale like 8-6 in 1882, and someone dumb historic thing. Yeah, someone stole. Yale rode back on
Mr. Stanford's favorite horse.
Horses. So then they had to go to Yale, and that's when they won 6-2.
You guys have never heard of this story before? This is like lore in the Bay Area.
Right. It's a historical podcast now. But yeah, so this Saturday at Stanford, JP will be at Stanford. How long are you going to be in the Bay?
I don't know, like 3 days.
Okay. Sweet. If you're in the Bay Area and you're going to the game, hit us up and you will get to meet JP Bertram, who will have stickers. The
like a clown.
The most exciting day of your lives. And we'll also beat Stanford. So I think it's a good time to bring in predictions. Oregon State wins 40-10.
Oh, damn.
40-10. And then we go in. Chance goes into standing O at Reeser on October 15th against the Cougs as Gangsta's Paradise plays on a loop for the entire game, thanks to Sarah Elcano, our dear friend in the athletic department.
42-17, Oregon State wins.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to join you guys. So I like reading my notes because my notes from my prediction episode are kind of funny. But I wrote, well, first, this is our first trip to Stanford Stadium since 2018.
Oh,
it's been
weird.
a while. Yeah, which is weird, being that we were both Pac-12 North, while that existed.
Yeah.
But I put stupid tree, no student support, bunch of nerds pretending to like football. And I've seen 5 straight losses in Palo Alto. This is the year it changes. But then this is where it gets weird. This is the Bob Newby part of the episode. Nolan returns at near full health, I say. Beavs roll. 6-game losing streak at Stanford Stadium snapped. A touchdown shy of the full Wehage, 35-14. If we win by that score, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket.
We also
Nice.
won at Stanford during that 06 season. So
There you
just
go.
throwing that out there.
Yeah.
It's also the school that, if I'm not mistaken, is sort of what Chop 'em derived from, because you chop down trees.
It's true. Did you guys see
Right.
the Duck tweet that today or yesterday? Oh, I guess
The
in
Duck?
the midnight.
What do they tweet?
Somebody sent it to us. I got to find out who it was, but somebody, shout out listener. I'm sorry if I don't remember and can't find you, but
Was it a DM or were you tagged?
I think we were tagged, and they essentially was the Duck saying something about like, this is what it's like to get chopped to the
Dude.
tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not
it
cool,
was
Oregon.
it was Beef Fan 95.
There you go.
Yeah, the Duck chopped the tree down and said, "You've been chopped." And
Yeah.
shout out beef at beef _fan _ NE beef fan in Nebraska. Shout out. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. .. at Belligerent Beavs.
Yep.
Not our only good tag of the weekend. We were tagged in a French tweet.
Yeah.
We're big
Shout out
friends.
like the Beaver fans in France, whatever it is.
Y'all thought we were just calling it Paris of the Pacific Northwest to be funny. It really is.
Beef fan in France had a great tweet right after the Fresno State game. He's like, I think I woke up my whole family. It's 7 a.m. here. So we're all over the place.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just hanging in Minneapolis here with Rudy Gobert. We talk Oregon State football every day. Best trade in NBA history.
Oh,
Book
God.
it.
Hey, you
We're
guys
not talking about that.
I know we don't want to go all conspiracy episode yet. That'll happen maybe another time. But did you guys see our friend Warren Gray tweeted at us about the OSU Alumni Association had like a booth or table set up, and there's a picture that they're holding that somebody must have drawn of Benny and Bernice
Oh yeah.
and the baby beaver.
What?
Yeah, we'll have
Do
to
we think
solve
this
that
is
one.
a new branding?
I don't know. Not the new branding like we saw on the center court.
It's like the American Gothic painting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But still, it's a Bernice sighting kind of, and it's
Right.
also a baby beaver. What are we alluding to here? But I don't know.
Is it alluding to the bebes?
Oh, it's
The baby.
Because
the
the
baby's a
bebes,
baby.
Yeah.
because the bebes opened up the investigation onto Bernice.
That's right. This
We
is
are
her
the
call for
babes.
help. She's holding us in her arms, saying, "Please save me."
Bernice is our mother. Release her
It's like
from
it's like
the
a-
damned prison that you have held her captive.
Below that weird non-aerodynamic beaver that was temporarily painted in mid-court.
There's
Gil
there's so many
Coliseum.
mysteries at legendary Gil Coliseum.
I should have gone there today. To be honest, I could have probably popped in after the soccer game because I think volleyball was playing at the same time. So
They were. Can we stop putting volleyball and women's soccer at the exact same game time?
Well, yeah, well, especially at both home. Like,
Yeah,
what is going
Right.
on?
I understand that Oregon State doesn't decide all of that, and there's a lot of things that go into scheduling. But imagine if one of those games was sort of right after the other, and you could just walk from one. Like,
Wow,
like
I would have
that'd
done it.
yeah, exactly. JP would have been at both. The Beaver Dam, which has been showing out with great support, could have been at both. Like that's a perfect day. So
I would've-
yeah. Well, you were
Well,
in Corvallis,
next
JP. Anything else on football, guys?
No, just win.
Just
Yeah.
win, baby.
Yeah,
and takes also in the fact that like we still have an opportunity to go to an amazing bowl game, and this can be a great season. So I know there was a lot of
We're
faith
still
that seemed to be
going to the
lost.
Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of faith lost.
I agree.
After this,
Keep
we
the faith.
lost
Keep
to
the
two
hope.
really good teams.
Yep.
It's good that we're mad about it. Like,
Right.
think about 5 years ago being this upset at Oregon State losing
Good
to
point.
two top 15 teams. Like, it just shows how much we've grown from where we were at.
Very good point.
5 years ago, you wouldn't have cared. And you wouldn't
Yeah.
have listened to Belligerent Beavs on a Monday or Tuesday morning either. Who wants that?
Right,
We
right.
lived that life, and you all let us live it.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It's good to be mad.
It's good to be mad. I don't think I'm hungover anymore either, guys.
Yeah,
This has been
nice.
really
Nice.
helpful. This is what happens. Like, I don't know. I feel amazing right now. I feel great.
Because we're talking Beaver athletics, man.
Yeah,
We
man.
are.
Everything
We are.
Everything about the Beavs makes you feel good. Just
Of
even
course.
if we're
Right.
not playing well, it's just good. Like this was, I will say this. There was an onlooker at a spectator at the soccer game today who made a comment in passing about bad weekend to be a Beavs fan, and I
No such
agree.
thing.
But I agree. It's been a rough week. And that's why I was like, yeah, it's been a rough week. It's like all around been a rough week. And we have, I think there's really one shining moment of the week. And I think that, thank you men's soccer for
That
holding
was
your
a
own.
beautiful fucking goal too that Ellis
Exactly.
Speichner had in that win against UCLA. Andy Snacks called it.
He did call it. Shout out Andy Lascelles, staff writer for the dive. If you haven't read his stuff yet, you're missing out.
You are.
It's witty. It's great coverage, and it's fun. So check it out on the dive. BelligerentBeavs.com/the dive.
We're gonna have a big week on the dive this week. It's
Nice.
always a big week, but I've decided it's going to be bigger.
Well, I'll write my recap of the women's game today, but I would like to summarize with it's tough goings right now for the women's team, clearly, and you ran into two really, really good and deep
Buzzsaws.
programs that we're the opposite of that right now. So like if they're deep because they're rolling through the valley of
The shadow of death. I take a look at my life and I realize there's none left.
and then you roll up to Corvallis and you're
Love you,
like,
Coolio.
where did this come from? That is kind of what those teams are when it comes to like their bench depth, right? We're the opposite. We're in Palo Alto, and then all of a sudden you're looking and you're like, why is there a farm here? We just don't have the depth because I'm tying
not
segments together.
following this at all.
I'm tying segments together. We don't have the depth because we have 7 people injured right now, okay? And there's just it's just tough goings because we just can't keep the energy level up with what these teams are able to do and bring to us. And like what I saw today firsthand was, one, there was a frenzy at Paul Lorenzi. That stadium was packed. It was packed.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
It was a great day. Shout out to Beaver Nation for showing up. Very cool. Number 2 was the ladies on the pitch were really giving it their all. And when you're in person, you get to see a lot more than what you see on a one camera angle of the Pac-12 network, right? Like when you're watching on Pac-12 network, they're just keeping focus on the ball, but you don't really see the body language and the effort happening on the people not in frame. And I really got to see that firsthand today, and I was very impressed by that. And not to be biased by any means, but I want to point out and shout out McKenna Martinez because, she's a forward. So unless she's got the ball in her side of the field or at her feet, she's not in the frame of the TV. And as a viewer, you miss a lot of this. She was fighting for position all the time, the whole time. It was very rare to see any sort of downtime with her movement. And she had to because of all the injuries, because of the lack of depth right now on the team. The defense is, man, like it is a hack of McKenna, full bore hack of McKenna effort. And I got to give it to her because when I saw some of the ways that these defenders are coming at her, taking her out, doing whatever they could to just disrupt her game, and she they get a whistle, whatever, but no, there was no cards or anything, at least that I was able to see. But she just stood up and just would dust off and just go move on, and that's not how I think either any of us would react to being targeted so explicitly on the pitch, game in and game out. And I got to hand it to her. Like, she kept her cool. She just kept trying to play her game. Today was just, I think it just was clear.
The Bruins are really good.
Oh yeah, they're number one in the nation. And like,
Well,
And USC's really good too. So
what happens? So we have 7 players that are injured on a professional team. If you have 7 players that are injured, you just call up somebody else or you sign another player. But you're gonna have 18 people on the team with 7 on the bench. So if you have 7 players injured in college, do they have like redshirt freshmen that they can call up, or is the bench just shorter?
I think it's just shorter.
Right.
Damn.
There's a potential that I don't know how many walk-ons we have on the roster currently, but some programs, and I have no intel on if Coach Sinicola has like practice players. There are like a certain level, like you can have like below the walk-ons, like players who can practice with the team, sort of like trialist in professional. It would be like that equivalent, but it's not 7 players.
Yeah.
So I think there's maybe a chance that like they could get added, like temporarily added to the game day roster. But I'm not sure. So
if you're not playing competitive soccer, like because like you're practicing with the team, but you're not like at
in games, right?
And then you go face number 1 in the country, UCLA. If you had to get thrown into that,
what the fuck? That's
why like it's. But this is like a blessing in disguise. I had another onlooker comment that the injuries are bad, and it's been rough. These last 2 games, especially, it's been exploited. But better to have it against these 2 teams where it would have been a tough draw regardless, and then get healthy on the games where you really can pull out a W. So
right, and it's still a great opportunity for the players who were active, and like we're bullish on this team, but obviously I don't think we had national championship hopes going into
Not
this.
yet.
Hoping to make the tournament. Obviously, all these injuries are tough, but when this team is lifting trophies in 2 years, you sort of look back on how that is built, and it's games like this in the rear view. So yeah, I knew they were going to look good. I knew they were going to show a lot of fight. We've heard Coach Nicola say that in all of our conversations with her. So it's tough, but it happens, and it's not fair. So.
Right.
Hope to see them get back to their winning ways here very soon.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Men's soccer is playing Cal on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and then women's plays earlier in the day in Boulder.
So Thursday against Colorado, another they hit the road, and then hey, maybe they'll extract some revenge on Utah on Sunday.
Look at the lineup at noon on Sunday. Do you see it?
The lineup at noon on Sunday.
For the schedule. So women's soccer at Utah at noon. Men's soccer versus Stanford in Corvallis at noon.
Jesus.
Women's volleyball at Wazoo at noon.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? When was the women's soccer game this last weekend?
They didn't have one.
You mean
women's
today?
soccer or today?
Today was noon.
Today was. I wonder, do they just have all sports other than football start at noon?
No, because men's soccer played at SDSU at 3.
That's right.
Right. That one I like.
They do have a lot of noon matchups, noon games through the season.
Interesting.
On Sundays. I mean, it's probably get the kids back at home to study.
Right.
Do student things, but
Let's schedule all these games during the NFL. This is
well, speaking of games not scheduled to play during the NFL season, baseball announced its schedule.
yeah. The baseball schedule is coming out, and the University of Minnesota will be going to Surprise Stadium in Arizona. I don't know if I'd know anyone around that program or not, but maybe this is the year we make the trip, you guys.
Oof.
I'd so much rather go to Scottsdale for that tournament in February than for the conference championship in late May.
Is that still going to be this year again?
The conference championship? I believe so.
Yeah. All right.
Is it in Arizona again?
Pretty sure.
That was such a bad idea. God. Wasn't it like 110 degrees there during game time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why they didn't
like
the
8 p.m.
championship game start. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I only saw on the schedule, it just said that the tourney is May 24th to 28th, but it didn't say where.
They should do it in Phoenix. Doing a outdoor event in Phoenix in June sounds like a fucking great idea.
All right.
I think they should.
Okay, so Oregon State's schedule. The schedule page on ocbeavers.com does not indicate that. I thought that was in the tweet, though. May 9th, of note, Beavers at University of Portland. JP, I'm guessing you will be there. Times for these games have not been released. We're also doing that thing again.
Noon.
We play Oregon at noon. Is there a really important thing that you're doing that day? Yeah, that's when it starts too. So just good fucking luck. We're doing that thing again too, where we'll have I think we host Oregon in a non-conference game, and then the conference games are in Eugene again. The conference games are for sure in Eugene.
They listen to the fans and they're like, we're just gonna stack all in now and do this again. No one understood it.
Right. I don't know. Well, anyway, I can't find that. And I just got back to our Zoom window and JP is gone. He disappeared like Bob Newby. But yeah, I think they're doing well, you can get to the bottom of that, but I'm expecting the conference tournament to remain a thing.
Oh yeah,
in baseball.
That was a fun event to watch. I really liked it. Yeah.
It was fun. I think they'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to The Sims 2. I'm back.
The ghost.
I'm gonna be Bob Newby for Halloween.
They're gonna keep doing the tournament. I'm just saying, is it gonna still be in Arizona? Is it still gonna be? See, last year around this time, I saw Scottsdale Stadium was sending out communications about get your tickets to the Pac-12 tournament. I haven't seen that yet, so I don't know if that's still happening.
There's so many nice MLB stadiums in the region that the Pac-12 plays that I'm sure they could find a team that is on a road trip during that weekend event.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
How cool would that be if it rotated between T-Mobile Park and it's not AT&T, but
Oracle Park now.
Oracle Park, or Dodger Stadium, right? That. There's some great venues for them to play in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can go indoors at is it Chase Bank now, whatever it is, and
Chase Field, yeah, the Diamondback Stadium.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's definitely plenty of options.
Because they had a game start at 7 a.m. or something. Because you need.
Yeah.
I think they did it all in one stadium. I think it would be ideal if it was 2. But
that'd be the other thing. Why would you? There's a million spring training facilities down there. Why would you not just try to spread it out?
How did the Pac-12 plan it that bad and still, have the event go off pretty well?
Yeah,
but they planned it so bad.
Because you could probably have, if you did it, I don't know what UW's baseball stadium is like, but you could have most of the games at T-Mobile, but then early in the tournament, you could probably have UW host a game, because there's a little bit of a play, the lower seeds have to play in, I think. So you do need to have 9 games in 4 days,
right,
or more. So, but you're not. I don't think Scottsdale, if they're worried about tickets or exposure, you could still sell well for the main games at T-Mobile, but then just have a smaller venue to make sure the rest of the thing happens. So,
right,
I don't know, but we know Mark Garland and I believe Aaron Fitt, and we have lots of enthusiasm for Beaver baseball on the timeline though right now. So I think those exhibitions they had with Gonzaga in beautiful Bend, Oregon, were a pretty big hit. Obviously, a lot's going to happen between now and when that season really gets going. But
a lot's going to happen. We're going to have some news by that point. We're going to have some Belligerent Beavs baseball news.
We're going to have a lot of exciting shit.
Yeah.
So
stay tuned, Beaver fam.
Just scooch to the edge of your seat right now and just sit there for months.
For 6 months. Just
we'll announce it before. We're coming soon. We'll announce things soon.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else, you guys? It's fun to see you. Thank you for nursing me back to health.
Yeah. Welcome back to health.
Now that you're feeling good, go get your 3rd hangover.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched this week's House of the Dragon yet, so maybe I'll open another beer and stay up too late and watch TV.
Nice.
Feeling good right now. Let's go fucking ruin it.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys, and good luck to the Niners tomorrow night. Who are the Niners playing?
Thanks.
I know that they are playing. I don't know who they're playing.
Rams week.
Rams week. Ooh, the defending champs on Monday Night Football. Is it in San Francisco or LA?
It's in Santa Clara, but yeah,
Okay, it's hard. Home or away? Home.
It's home.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking. The great Levi's Stadium. Anyway, well, thank you.
Smack dab in the middle of Great America Theme Park.
Yeah, the best stadiums always are. So anyway, well, thank you, especially to the listener, for tuning into another great episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. Keep those chins up out there, Beaver fam. This football team is still special and has a lot more good things to do this season. They're coming starting next Saturday at the farm, the famous Stanford farm. And whenever
Mr. Stanford's farm,
because I'm sure there's a lot of excitement about this game. You're going to go out and try and consume as much content as you can. But just remember, the only content you need are JP's notes from the predictions episode. Really just the first note, which I'm quoting this. Correct me if I'm wrong, JP, but read stupid tree.
Yeah,
that's really all you
tree.
need to know. Stupid tree. Fuck that tree. Let's go chop it down, because you can't spell chop 'em without hope. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. I've been your co-host, Terry Horseman, at Terry Horseman on Twitter, at Terrence Horseman on the Instagram, joined by my beloved friends and co-host in Bebe's Beavers fandom, JP Bertram, at the real _J on Twitter, because he's too real to be real, and at JP Bertram on Instagram. And heading with that playoff smile, heading to the MLB postseason, because he's on the team in Tacoma, Washington, Benjamin Lawrence Sebastian Wehage, a.k.a. Benny with the good quaff, a.k.a. Benny Bedlam Beat, because he's fucking crazy, folks. He's the one with the bendy schedule, at Benny L 1986 on all the social media channels. Thank you again for tuning into the show. Please rate and review 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, especially Apple and Spotify listeners. And please recommend the show to a friend. From all of us, thank you. Go Beavs, and remember that you can't spell chop 'em without hope. Chop 'em.
chop them,
Chop 'em.
And bring back our sweet mother Bernice, please.
and the baby.